Hello and welcome to the You Are the Program podcast. If you are watching on YouTube, we are very, very, very excited to say not just welcome to the You Are the Program podcast, but it is now presented by Nudge Printing. We have, Brian's given two fist pumps there. We are very, very excited to be presented by Nudge Printing. We'll go into a little detail on that, but very proud and excited to have a Spartan-owned company be our first presenting sponsor of the show. And we couldn't be any more excited for the future with them because they're a great company, great people, like you said, Spartan-owned. So it couldn't be any better than that. But without any further ado, this is the big podcast. So it's all been leading up to this. Brian Lewerke, Tyler Higbee, Dante Rosano. We got a rundown. We got everything leading up to the big game, 11 p.m. Saturday night. How are we doing?
Doing great. I want to give a quick shout out to Gabe at Nudge Printing. He was great. We met with him and got this whole thing rolling, so really appreciate him. Dante, you said it's all leading up to this, huh?
It feels like it. It certainly feels like it. This week is it feels consequential. Everything you see on Twitter, it seems like the sky's falling after the Youngstown game. It feels like everything's leading up to this.
It is true. I'll add one more thing before Tyler gives his spiel. Seeing all the stuff, it's kind of been firing me up because no one's given us a shot in the world to win this game. We're 18-point underdogs. We got to travel across the country, play at 11:30 at night. It's firing me up that this team is going to show up. The odds may not be in our favor, but this could be a defining moment for Jonathan Smith and for this football team.
Yeah, I'm excited for this game. I mentioned it last week. We might need a coffee or a espresso martini to stay up for the night. But shout out to Nudge. It's pretty cool that we got our first sponsor. Obviously, I'm in need of some new gear, but excited. I got some on the way. So hopefully next episode I'll have something from Nudge. They got a bunch of good stuff on there, and excited for this game this weekend.
Yeah, Brian, I'll just echo what you said. We were able to meet with Gabe, and it was probably a couple emails went back and forth, and it was a very easy process. But I have known about their stuff for a couple years now. They have all the logos. Like, that's one of the best things is they have the Gruff logo, they have the Script State, they have hockey, they have the golfing Sparty, they have like everything on there. In the ad read, we'll give you more of the spiel. This isn't the ad read, but we just wanted to really give that shine because it's a great company, great people, and of course Spartan owned. So that's the number one priority there. So without any further ado, and we had talked about this, I said it or Brian, you had said it right out the gate, is it feels like there is nobody that is giving us a chance in this game. As you had said, 18.5-point underdogs. I believe the stat is for Midwest or Big Ten teams traveling out to USC, they're 0-8 against the spread. Michigan State, traditionally, we know that we've been a part of one of these games to where we go out and play at night. We traveled out on Friday. It sounds like Jonathan Smith and the team are going to travel out on Thursday. There just seems to be a lot against us, and that really has been amplified by the fact the showing against Youngstown State was lackluster. And the showing against Youngstown State didn't inspire a lot of confidence, specifically in the defense. And so, as we start here, I kind of wanted to say, I don't know why it feels like the vibes are so down. And on top of this, the UCLA head coaching job comes open. And I don't think it's realistic at all that Jonathan Smith even has interest in that job just because of what that job is. But he's from Pasadena. So obviously his name comes up, but like there has been some cloud or negative shift towards this team in a week after they come off the Boston College game. Vibes are great. And then all of a sudden they look lackluster for 2 quarters against, well, pretty much the whole game, but defensively they didn't look great for a majority of that game. And all of a sudden the vibes are down. And I kind of can't stand it because we're 3-0 and this is where you want to be. And they needed to make a statement against USC. We knew that coming in the preseason, and this is your chance to do it.
Yeah, Tal, you mentioned like is this any different of a spot than we expected to be in? I mean, we're 3-0. We won the 3 games, the first 3 of the games that we should have won. Maybe not in such a decisive matter that we would have liked, but we're still 3-0. We're starting Big Ten play. and I don't understand all the negative discourse. Maybe this team hasn't looked as good as we want to, but there's some growing pains. Teams got to figure out who they are, even defensively, offensively. They got to figure out what works best for them. And I think this team's still finding their footing, and hopefully this will be the next step in kind of creating their identity.
Yeah, I don't understand the people that are they're saying stuff like, "Oh, if UCLA offers him the job, Smith should go right now." Like, what are we talking about? He's done nothing but good for this program. He was dealt one of the worst hands he could have been dealt. And he's done nothing but good, turn this program around. You're 3-0, like you just said, Brian. What more do people want? You wanted to win against Youngstown 70-0. The way that game played out, that just wasn't possible. You had the ball 3 times in the first half. You scored all 3 times. You got the win against Boston College. You got your get back against them. And you opened up what I thought, some people thought was a lackluster performance against Western. I mean, I was glass half full in that aspect. I thought they did a lot of good things. It's week 1. They improved on week 2. It's going to be there. They're going to be climbing. It's going to be an uphill battle this weekend, though. I think if Nick Marsh plays, it definitely gives this team a boost. But we'll see. We'll see towards, I guess, Friday. We'll know whether he's going or not.
Yeah, and not to beat this thing to death, but as we've talked about through the weeks here, you two have been through the game days where I'm a little on edge, a little upset about things that are happening. But so I as a fan and as a former player come at this from the perspective of I understand the fan side of it, because really that's where my allegiance started as a fan. But I can't understand the amount of negativity that has felt like this week specifically. We've listed all the reasons why it feels like it shouldn't be there. But on top of this, Tyler, you hit it, and I was going to save a lot of this for the defensive segment, but he was dealt about as bad of a hand as you could have asked for. 60+ transfers out. You had a lot of people, probably 60 transfers come in. You finally have stability this offseason. You bring in a transfer class that, yeah, everyone's complaining that we didn't bring in a high-priced defensive, edge or tackle or something like that. I mean, think about everywhere else that they added through the portal, though, and what this staff is building. We're in year 2. We're in game, what is this? There was 12 last year. We're in game 16 approaching. Like, we are okay. Everyone take a step back. As much as we want to think, and I don't know if I'm going to get in trouble for saying this, but I think you guys would echo this. As much as we think we are a top 5 brand, and I think Michigan State can be that type of top 5 brand in college football, it's not the same rebuild and build pattern as a Miami or a Texas or an Ohio State if things go the right way. On top of that, you didn't hire a coach that was going to operate that way. This is how he wants to build it, and I think you're seeing some positive returns from it. Just give it time. Let it play out. And so I come at that from the fan side of it, and I'll get more into the defensive aspect of it. And I think that's really where a lot of the I don't want to say anger, but like discontent comes early in the year. But they got a big chance to show what they are and what maybe they aren't. But this is a big opportunity for this entire team. And I think, if anything, we've talked about disrespect all off season leading up to this. This is a prime opportunity for this team to go on the road and prove something that we haven't seen in a very long time of everyone's down on you. Your fan base is down on you. You now have the opportunity to go out west, play well against a USC team who their toughest test has been Purdue, and kind of make your stamp on this year.
Yeah, we're a blue collar team. We're not gonna be flashy. Jonathan Smith's not a flashy guy, but we're gonna find the gritty ways to win games. That's how Coach D did it. That's how Jonathan Smith is gonna do it. We tried it the other way, didn't turn out very well. So this is what we're doing now, and I like it.
Okay, enough of that. We probably beat that a little too much, but I thought it needed to be addressed just because of what I feel like we've kind of been seeing this week leading up to this game. One piece of news here that came out in the college football landscape, Tyler, you had brought this up, and I think it's a good thing to hit on, is the spring transfer portal window was eliminated today. Just got announced today. So meaning there will only be one transfer portal window, which is, I believe, at the end of the season before the playoffs still. I don't know if they've moved that. Did they or not, Tyler?
I don't know if they move that. Ideally, you move it to after the bowl game, after the championship, but they're probably not smart enough for that.
I feel like that's a logical next step, though, if you're eliminating the spring portal window, is you just do a big one after the entire playoffs are over, but that hasn't been announced yet. Feels like the logical next step, but I think this is also a step in the right direction of bringing back the reins on the portal window. Now that there's one window, it's going to be insane, but it at least gives your staff and your team, once you get through that window, a sense of calmness, I believe, in terms of you don't have to go back and rebid towards guys that are in the portal or guys that are on your team. Conversely, worried about entering the portal after the spring. So once that window's kind of over, you at least have the ability to now know who you have, know what you have, and kind of go forward from there. So I think that's a positive step.
Yeah, I don't got much to say on that. I think it is the right move to get that, just kind of eliminate it and get it down to one window where the coaches can focus on their roster once that window's done.
Yeah, I think the biggest part of it to me was just guys wanting to get more money after the spring. And you take, was it Derek Harmon a few years ago, for example? He renegotiates for, we'll call it 7 figures to come back for the spring. After spring ball, he leaves to go to Oregon for more money. You're not going to have that anymore, thank God, because that's just kind of ridiculous in my eyes. So I think this was a great move, and hopefully the next step is to have the portal window moved a little bit after the season.
Agreed. A couple other notes. Brian, you did a tweet today that did some numbies there. Did a couple numbers. Just clarify for us, please.
Yeah, so I tweeted something. It was Aiden Childs' stats compared to Sam Leavitt, former Michigan State quarterback, now at Arizona State. Aiden's stats are a little better than him, and I wanted to clarify that is no knock on Sam Leavitt. I think he is a great quarterback. I think it was more of a praise for Aiden Childs and how I think he's improved tremendously from last year. And obviously Sam's not having the best year so far, but I mean, his numbers are going to pick up. Aiden's numbers are going to pick up. So it's more so a praise on Aiden Childs and his kind of improvement. But it's funny how much it blew up.
Yeah, just to even caveat that further, all three of us really liked Sam Leavitt and did not want to see him go. And I believe when he left, it was more of a understandable, and hope he does well. So there was no ill will, obviously, and Brian wanted you to clarify that verbally.
I appreciate that.
Because I know you followed up that tweet. Sometimes your follow-up doesn't get as much love as the initial one did. So
I know, because I tweeted like 3 hours after too, and I was like, I probably should throw this in there.
All right, finally, the last
being a quarterback, brother.
Yeah, I guess.
You have a platform now, kid. All right.
Not as big as what it used to be, but it's still one.
Arguably bigger now.
Yeah, so some may say.
Some may say that. The last thing was, there was a tweet that got sent out earlier in the week talking about the Trojan Horse trophy that could be introduced to this game. This is all Twitter speculation. I want to credit all three of us for being on this back in August. I feel like I should go back and find that clip because we talked about it back in August, that this should be a trophy game. And really, when you think about it, the Big Ten is filled with the most nonsense trophies of all time. That this one above a lot of others, besides, your in-state rivalries or your 100-year rivalries, this one deserves some love. I mean, I think it is Iowa and Nebraska have a trophy that's a broken chair. You can fact check me on that if I'm wrong, but there are some nonsense trophies in here in the Big Ten, and this would be one that needs to happen just because of the Spartan Trojan, Trojan War, whatever it might be. This is a game that needs a trophy.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know the history behind the Spartans and the Trojans going back to early days. I'm not a history major. Maybe we need to bring on our friend Bryce Wilker to come give us a history lesson on that. But I think a trophy would be much appreciated in a game like this. It's a big enough game. These two big enough brands where we could get a trophy going for this game.
And then, I mean, you play them every year, but you play them on the road every other year. It'd be a nice trip to LA every other year. But you can make the trophy look really cool too. I mean, That's the other aspect of it. Like you can do a lot of cool things with these two logos.
You could have a spear, you could have a shield, you could have a sword, you could have so many different things. It just doesn't need to be the Trojan horse. So let's try and verbalize that. Let's try and push for that. This game needs something to signify what it could be here with the future of USC now in the Big Ten. So, all right, all of that aside, let's get into the game that is going to be taking place on Saturday night. Michigan State is an 18.5-point underdog. I have now seen. I believe the line opened at 14. So there's been a lot of money going to USC, and I think part of it has to do with the fact that Nick Marsh is hurt, and we don't know how hurt, but game time decision. So his status is unclear. And also the fact of, I called out the stats early. I think it's 0-8 going out west for Big Ten teams. We know last week Minnesota went out to Cal, lost. You see this pretty often in the sport of time zone difference. It is a huge deal in this game, and we have some experience with this. The Arizona State game in 2018, it was a 10:30 p.m. kick, and you can feel it. We traveled out Friday. Jonathan Smith says they're going to travel out Thursday. The travel of this game is not fun, but I do believe that extra day should give us some extra time to adjust to the time difference.
Yeah, and I think that line shift and kind of the odds being against us has a lot to do with how last week went in the mind of fans, and then also the injuries that we have. And USC has had a much improved start of their season over what they had last year. Kind of getting into their offense. Jaden Mayav is 5th in the country in passing yards. Their passing game is very lethal, and that's kind of been our weakness. So I think that's one of the big things that they're looking at. But I mean, traveling out to the West Coast, never fun to play a football game and you got to fly 5 hours. So it'll be a test, but one that we'll be ready for, hopefully.
I think we've talked about that trip to Arizona State before, but just to nail that point home, that was, I mean, between the heat and the time of the kickoff, probably one of my least favorite games to play in. I mean, the atmosphere was awesome, but I mean, it was probably 11 o'clock back home, right? By the time we kicked off. I mean, it was a night game, miserable. And it was like 1 a.m., 1:30, 2 a.m. at halftime. Not fun. So that's what these guys get to look forward to. But no excuses around here, right?
The heat didn't affect you as a Texas boy, though, right?
I was hot. It was also because our warm-up was kind of insane. Like we ran 100 plays. We just did a lot. I would have liked to trim that down a little bit.
Yeah.
Additionally, I don't think we got back, and I believe we've talked about this before. I don't think we got back to East Lansing until 8 a.m. the next day.
Yeah.
Thank God we have a bye week next week.
Yeah.
I feel for USC because their game time against Illinois just got announced today, and they play a noon game at Illinois next week, which is 9 a.m. body clock for them. So this and this is a bigger picture type thing. The Big Ten and its network, and I understand they're paying a ton of money to all these universities in the Big Ten for all of this. There's got to be some type of middle ground. This isn't just a Michigan State complaint, and I know that the West Coast teams probably feel it 3x what the East Coast teams do because they got to come out here every time, but they have to figure something out with the game times.
Yeah.
Anyways, let's get into this game. So as Brian had just talked about, USC has been off to a much better start this year. Their last game that they played, first Big Ten game, they played at Purdue and won 33-17. It wasn't as convincing as you would think. Halftime score of 17-3. They were also rain delayed 3 hours. But they only win that game by 16 total points. Purdue moved the ball pretty decently on them, racked up 350 yards total, 300 through the air, which is very much of note for us offensively. And then on the ground, Purdue only gained 52 yards on 1.9 yards per rush. So that's something to watch there. Additionally, Purdue had lost the turnover battle 3-0, including a pick 6 to one of their defensive tackles, Jamal Jarrett. So the final score, even though it is a comfortable win, this is where I am surprised how much things have climbed, and I really think it's a little bit more due to the travel factors and what may be. in this game. A little bit of our defense as well, but Purdue hung tough with them, and if you don't get a pick six there, they're kind of within striking distance in a under 10-point game. So let's open this thing off with Michigan State's offense against USC defense. Just a little background information: USC had lost one of their corners, Chasen Johnson. By the way I read it at first, it sounded like it was a big loss. He's only played 34 snaps on the year. Still, they're losing depth on that side where they clearly struggled against Purdue. Cameron Fountain, edge, and Eric Gentry, linebacker, both with 3 sacks on the year. Both safeties, Bishop Fitzgerald, Christian Pierce, they're very productive. Their PFF grades are right up there. I think Bishop Fitzgerald's in the 90s for the year, so he's been very, very productive this year on the back end. And then also additionally, as we've talked about with Nick Marsh injury and then Mekhi Frazier, it sounds like both of them are game time decisions this week. However, Brian and I were just talking, Tyler, before you had gotten in. Obviously, Luka Vincic out for the year. It's already been announced, but it sounds like Ashton Lepo will be good to go at right tackle as depth there. And then additionally, Big Dooley, Chris Phillips. He had actually returned to the game last week. So in terms of the injuries that we had fielded last week, it feels like most of those have subsided. Stan, Marsh, and Frazier on the fence for this weekend. So obviously we know how important Nick Marsh is. Offensively, fellas, against a USC team and a USC defense that seems to have taken a step the last year and then the beginning of this year, this is going to be the side of the ball that obviously we're going to need to focus on, because we kind of know what's going to happen on the other side of the ball. This side of the ball is going to take a lot of precedent in how Michigan State can potentially win this game.
Yeah, I think that this side of the ball is going to have the most pressure on them. I think this is going to be a decently high-scoring game if it's one that we're going to win. Like you mentioned, I know PFF grades aren't like do or die, but they have 8 of their 11 starters are in the 70s or higher for PFF grades. So they've obviously been doing great things. And like I said, we're going to have to be able to put up points. We're going to have to be able to run the ball. Throw the ball. The defensive side is one that maybe be our defense a little more concerning. But if we want to win this game, this is going to be Aiden Childs is going to have to take over a little bit with Mekhi Frazier as kind of a game time decision. Could have a little uncertainty in the backfield, but this will be one game I think that Aiden Childs really has to take over.
I think it helps with the injury to Frazier. It helps that you've kind of been running back by committee so far this year. So some of these guys have gotten their feet wet a little bit. As far as offensive line goes, these guys, you have to make USC respect the run. You weren't able to run the ball against Youngstown. A little concerning in my eyes, but we can chalk it up to some of the injuries and the shuffling of the line. But you got to make USC respect the run. It's going to make things easier for Childs. Dante, you mentioned it earlier today. If I'm USC, I'm spying him all game. Yeah. I'm making him beat you with his arm. If he scrambles for these first downs, these broken plays, you've seen through 3 weeks how athletic he can be, how he can beat you by himself. If I'm USC, I'm not letting him do that. So if I'm Michigan State, I've got to kind of anticipate that and be prepared for it.
If either of you guys were the offensive coordinator, and I'll include myself in this, what would your game plan or what was your plan of attack be offensively first half? I obviously know that if we get behind, the game plan goes out the window, right? But in terms of perfect blue sky, your script, what are you trying to focus on early in this game? Because I think I'll know the answer from everyone, but offensively, I think there needs to be a very clear plan of attack early, and see where this game kind of goes from there.
I think it's through the air. I mean, Aiden Childs is a California guy. He's going to be back in his hometown-ish in California. Dante, you mentioned they gave up 350 yards to Purdue, and 300 of those were through the air. So I think there is a little bit of a vulnerability there. The run game is obviously important. I think a good run game establishes a good offense. But I think Aiden Childs, kind of like I said before, he's got to be able to win this game with his arm.
I agree. I mean, I think it's going to be through the air, and I think, like I said, you got to respect the run. The run game has to be complementary of the pass game. I think this week, I don't know how well you're going to be able to run the ball, but it's got to be there at some point. You got to make them respect it, and you got to be less predictable, I think. There's going to be certain clear passing situations, certain clear run situations. I'd like to see some play action, some rollouts. We've seen the half rollout already this year. Just get Childs on the move a little bit, move his spot like we've talked about earlier this year.
It's interesting you guys went with the pass game because my answer to that is you need to be productive on the ground. You need to control. You need to have ball control. You need to give this defense a break because they're going to have the weight and pressure of this game on them, or for what it feels like and what we know that what this defense is. And so early on, at least for me in the first half, if we can run the ball, I'd love to see us chew up some 7-8 minute drives that can just methodically move down the field. And that includes Childs' planned runs. You need to use him in a different way because, Tyler, you had talked about it. I had told you guys both of this today. The biggest fear that I have is if we fall behind 7, 10, 14 points early, and then USC can lighten up the box. They can play straight up coverage. They can just let 4 go at Childs and then stick a spy on him that they're not going to let him get loose with his legs. If he's going to throw the ball, they're going to make him throw it and make decisions. And so that's where I'm a little nervous of if we do throw the ball early and we get this game to an up-tempo game, especially on our side, it can slip out. And I think putting more game pressure on USC, the longer you control the ball, the more productive and efficient you are on offense, the more pressure starts to flip to their side when their offense can't get on the field that often. And especially if you make a stop or two against them in the first half early, it can really feel like that. But all that to say, this game does feel a little different than previous games because I know a big key of ours is the offensive line. But at the same time, it feels like one of those games where we almost have an advantage up front. There's been a lot of games and a lot of these big spreads where we're playing in Oregon and Ohio State and Penn State to where you're kind of like throwing your hands up. You're like, well, I hope that the run game works. I feel like the run game should work against USC, and I think you kind of have to lean on that a little bit, especially early on.
Yeah. I 100% agree. I think that's the key, is to keep the ball out of Jaden Mayaba's hands and the USC offense, and not really give them many opportunities. Keep those long drives going, and maybe we can make this not a shootout and kind of a low scoring affair. If that's something we can do is run the ball, then I can envision that. But if we're not, it might be Aiden Childs might have to throw the ball 40, 50 times in this game to win.
Obviously, having Nick Marsh is going to determine a lot. And if he's playing, I mean, I think you'll see that number for the spread come way down. And I like our chances a lot more. But with or without him, you gotta be able to you gotta be balanced. You gotta make him respect it. I mean, I've said it already. You gotta make him respect it. And Childs has to be great. He doesn't have to be he doesn't have to play hero ball though.
Yeah.
Still got to keep doing what he's been doing this year. Make the smart throw. I mean, maybe the sack is the right play, but definitely get the ball out when you can.
Yeah, methodical football from him.
And one thing of note as well, Tyler, you had talked about, and I know this has been a big conversation of ours, has been the offensive line rotations. Through some of the early week press conferences, whether it's offense and defense, both Jonathan Smith, Joe Rossi, Brian Lindgren have talked about kind of those rotations and how many guys are playing up there. It really does seem like it was a focus of theirs after they came out of camp for the first 3 games. And Jonathan Smith said this specifically, as well did Joe Rossi, talking about skinnying down their rotations on not as much the outside, because I feel like receivers, you've seen that. Running back, I think it's actually a benefit to have a committee back there. But offensive line specifically, they've talked about the cohesion and getting the guys up front more comfortable with each other. And it feels like that really was a first 3 games type thing. Now, I don't think you're going to see it completely eliminated, but it does seem like it's going to be less frequent between the offensive line rotations. And I just wanted to note that because it could be a big factor in this game.
Agreed.
All right. Before we get to the defense, we just wanted to talk to you a little bit about our friends at Nudge Printing. We are proudly presented by Nudge Printing. If you are looking for the perfect Spartan gear, you have to check out Nudge Printing. A Spartan-owned company, as we had talked about, that doesn't just look good. I've talked about the different logos that they have, but it's very, very comfortable quality gear. I know a couple years ago had bought the Gruff Sparty OGO polo that's still on their website there. And then I got the actual Kelly Green, which I feel like this Kelly Green Spartan, the old green, is starting to make a little bit of comeback with the Gruff Sparty hat. Their hats are great. All of their quality, all of their stuff is very high quality. But more importantly, Nudge knows what it means to bleed green. Everything is printed here in mid-Michigan. Their shop's in Portland, Michigan. So when you wear their gear, you are supporting local craftsmanship with this true Spartan spirit. Fellas, I know we're very excited about Nudge. I am fired up to get up to a game and finally wear it and represent it. Once it comes in, I guarantee you I'm going to be wearing that Kelly Green hat. We talk about jerseys all the time. That a Kelly Green jersey is something that I wouldn't mind if they brought back for a special occasion.
Kelly Green's awfully close to neon, which is not liked in these parts.
Don't say that. Don't say that.
No, I mean, I did happen to buy the Kelly Green hat though, so I bought the same one that you did, uncoordinated.
I got a nice little quarter zip and a nice shirt. I'll be rocking the shirt hopefully soon. It's still 95 degrees here in Houston, so it's gonna be a while before I can wear that one down here.
Yeah, I'm just saying that like Kelly Green as a full jersey might be a little extreme.
No, it wouldn't be. Yeah, I don't know. It'd have to be an accent. I don't disagree with you, I guess. And we here pride ourselves, I feel like, on being traditional. We want to see the classic like this weekend. They're about to release the uniforms for this weekend. I just hope it's the green helmets and all white everything else. Just be traditional here, especially for a Michigan State USC game. This is going to be a beautiful aesthetic. USC's got traditional jerseys. Do something traditional for this one.
Or all
right. Speaking of traditional, we talked about it. Blue collar. Let's flip over to Michigan State defense, which for so long has been the side of the ball that Michigan State hangs its hat on. Through our tenure there with Coach D'Antonio, it was always tough defense, stop the run, limit possessions, hit them in the mouth, do whatever. And after that Youngstown State game, it just feels like the noise is growing and growing and growing about this defense. I feel like the biggest thing that Michigan State, looking from a Michigan State perspective right now, that we as fans need to understand is that this team's going to have limitations, specifically this defense, but it's how do you put together a successful game plan with the limitations at pass rush in the secondary? How do you put together a successful game plan against a USC team? Brian, you talked about it. Jaden Mayava has been very, very good early on, 5th in the country in passing yards. They have 2 very good receivers in Mekhi Lemon, and I'm blanking on the other one, Jacoby Lane.
Jacoby Lane, yep.
As a defense, we know that we're not getting to the pass rush, or we're not getting to the quarterback a ton. So what does a game plan look like against a very explosive USC offense and Lincoln Riley? What does a successful game plan look like for us on Saturday night?
I think a successful game plan is giving Jaden Mayava a different look post-snap than what he's seeing pre-snap. I mean, he's still a young quarterback. He hasn't had a lot of experience with Big Ten defenses in general, but especially Big Ten defenses. And I think giving him not like going overboard where we're moving like 4 guys in the back end around at a time where we get confused and we're blowing coverages, but just giving it like going from 2 high to 1 high, 1 high to 2 high, maybe showing 2 high and we're going like blitz 0 or something. Giving some different defensive looks, I think, is going to be key. And as a former quarterback, it disrupts my pre-snap look. And if it's a quick game and I'm trying to go one way and the rotation shifts, it could throw off the entire side of the field that I'm looking in the wrong direction because I thought it was one thing versus another. So I think that's it's the biggest key, besides generating a pass rush up front. I think that's the biggest key for us.
Yeah, you see a lot in the NFL now. These defenses are playing a lot of the cover 2 shell, trying to keep everything in front. I mean, I think that's kind of the game plan with this team. They're going to try to get explosives. They've been good at it this year so far. I think you just try to keep everything in front. You make them go down the field methodically, like you want to do yourself on offense, trying to bleed that clock a little bit. So I think keeping things in front and rallying to the ball. Excuse me.
Yeah, I wanted to preface all of that with saying I feel like we know what this team is, and as a defensive coordinator, I don't think Joe Rossi has any other instinct about what this defense is. It's trying to manage what it is, and I feel like we can't be, as fans and viewers of this game, we can't be complaining about if, Tyler, what you just talked about, Jaden Mayava's got guys with some cushion on them that are 5, 6, 7 yards. The biggest thing to me is just not getting beat with the explosive consistently. You need to keep them in front of you, shut off the run game, make them one-dimensional. And this team and passing game is definitely good enough to beat you offensively with just the pass game. So if you make them one-dimensional, I'm not saying that's going to win you this game, but it at least gives you a chance. If you can't stop the run in this game, I think it's going to be a very, very long night for this defense. So the first thing is you need to stop the run, and you can't allow explosives. Now, the biggest thing about that is, Brian, you just talked about, Tyler, you just talked about, is showing different looks, but also being very sound in your communication, because we cannot allow coverage busts against this team. They're going to do a lot of things that as a defensive backfield make you question where you're going to go. They're going to draw up concepts that are going to question where you're going to go. They're going to have rule breakers, which we've always talked about on defense, or I don't know if I've verbalized this. There are rules to a defense and a defensive formation and a scheme that you are based off of. And very good offensive coaches know how to break rules in your defense. They know exactly what they are based on how you play defense, and they're going to run some plays that are going to exploit that. For instance, I think it was a Brian, what's the super skinny post? Bang 8 or
glance? Yeah, bang 8 or glance.
Bang 8, which is a super skinny post that's running straight down the seam. And for us, that was always a big issue because safeties, I believe it was in cover 3 or cover 4. You need the backside safety to be almost covering to that. But they're going to give you looks that take your eyes from a lot of things. And I guarantee you on Saturday night, Lincoln Riley is going to do some things that defensive backfield is going to be questioning themselves, and they're going to be rule breakers.
Yeah, they're going to see some things they've never seen before. I can almost guarantee that.
Against Boston College, that was what was very frustrating about the Boston College game was it was super basic stuff that we were just busting on. And now they just need to be pinpoint in communication. They need to understand what their job is, and they need to expect pretty much anything. But I think the biggest thing, take away the run, make them one-dimensional, and then keep everything in front of you. Make them go down the field and then try and bow up in the red zone.
I don't expect USC to try all the trick plays that Youngstown did. Youngstown threw the whole playbook at us last week. But we were very sound when they did run those trick plays. So I would say be prepared for the unexpected, but I wouldn't anticipate them trying to get too cute.
Agreed. Anything else defensively? I think this. I mean, I kind of beat it over to death, but we know what this team is. We know what this defense is. I guess offensively, there's still a ceiling, but I think we know what this ceiling is defensively. It's just how do you raise the floor? How do you become a defense that, I think the second. What?
I said that was a bar right there.
What did I say?
I said you don't have to raise the ceiling. You just have to raise the floor. Is great analogy.
Is that similar to what? Yeah. I don't know about that. Is that what Roy Williams said during Michael Jordan's retirement speech that one time too at UNC?
He said the
ceiling is the floor.
No, like the ceiling is
the
sky or something like that. I don't know.
This is a great minute of podcasting. Either way, my point being is that this defense needs to know what it is, and they need to do what they can do and do it well. Stop the run, limit explosives. It might look ugly to the viewer, but once you get in that red zone, that's where you're really trying to limit the plays. That's where you're trying to limit the scores. Make them make a mistake, because I think this offense can put up points on them, and they're going to have to. We know we're not going to shut them out, but Those are just the big focuses on defense. Keys to victory. I think this is probably the most important keys to victory that we've had this season so far. I know in Boston College there was some, but I felt like if we, especially that game being at home, right? If we put together a good performance, the crowd was going to be behind us. Brian, do you want to kick us off with your key to victory for USC on Saturday?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of made it simple. I think we just need to generate pressure on the quarterback. I know that, we're not going to magically be able to have our DNs get, 4 or 5 sacks a game, but create ways to generate pressure, not being stupid and blitzing every play, but, having those timed blitz, having those different looks where safeties are rotating or you're kind of maybe breaking a rule defensively. I know there's some rules like in cover 2, you rarely ever see a blitz because you have to cover every part of the field with players. Like there's really no room for someone to blitz in cover 2. So maybe doing something like that. I don't know. We have to generate a little bit of pressure on the quarterback and get him off his spot and make him, affect the way he's throwing. Get some linemen that are backing up into his legs as he's making throws. We don't have to get sacked. We just have to make him uncomfortable back there and not being able to easily see the defense and kind of pick us apart.
I kind of mentioned it already. It's making them respect the run game. You got to make them respect it. Because if you show the run game you did last week against Youngstown, it's gonna be a long game, and that's gonna put a lot of weight on Child's shoulders to win this game again against a better team than it was against BC when he did it a lot himself as well. And the other part of that is capitalizing while you're in the red zone. You're not going to beat USC with field goals. You got to capitalize while you're down there. So when this team gets into the red zone, you can't settle for field goals. You can't count on a young kicker to keep drilling 30, 40, 50 yarders throughout the game, and this USC team is going to put up points. So you need 7, not 3.
It's going to be interesting too how aggressive the offense is early on with that point. I don't know how many times we should settle for field goals, especially when we're down there. They need 7, and they need that mentality of getting 7 often. For me, Brian, I'm not going to steal yours from the Boston College game, but I really wanted to win the middle 4. Because I do feel like if our game plan is going to be ball control offense, and we can do that successfully for 1 or 2 drives in the first half, you're talking about a condensed half to where, all right, the last 2 minutes, if you have the ball or if USC has the ball, you need something positive going into half. And then conversely, when you're coming out of half, whoever's getting the ball, flip that. You just need to win those middle 4. That's not my entire key to the game, but I think that is going to be a very big point, especially if we can run the ball early. My biggest key to the game is going to be manage the moment. We talked about how hard it is for teams to go out to the West Coast and win. You're just shaking your head over there. What's going on? Are you like?
No, I was saying, right, man, that was another good saying.
He liked it. He thought that was another bar.
Yeah, that was good.
Manage the moment. I mean, you have Jonathan Smith going back home to LA. Aiden Childs going back home to LA. They've already talked about how many of his friends, family are going to be out there. And it's a spotlight. It's an 11 o'clock game. It's not 7. So on TV, maybe you're not seeing as many people, but you're also in the Coliseum. We've never been out to the Coliseum. That stadium kind of looks daunting if it's full and rowdy. It can fit like 120,000 if it's full, I think.
Have been there. It's one for a game.
Well, it was electric for a game?
Yeah, it was against Notre Dame with Manti Te'o. Electric.
So manage the moment is mine. You can't be starstruck in this spot. You have to go make a statement. Early on, especially when the game is just kicking off, be ready. Come out swinging, throw the first punch, whatever it is. You have to come out and make a statement if you want any chance in this game. You can't fall behind by 14 early.
I think also if we can do what Youngstown State's defense did to our offense defensively on our end, we had 1 possession in the first quarter against Youngstown State and only 3 in the first half, and we scored on all of them. I think it was 2 touchdowns and a field goal. So if we can hold USC to 3 possessions in the first half, I would consider that a win, and you can kind of build off that once it goes.
That's where I'm talking game plan. Go ahead, Tyler.
I was gonna say I got two more quick ones. One is it's not the loudest stadium you're ever gonna play in, so you got to keep the penalties to a minimum. This team, we've seen they're not good enough to overcome some of these penalties on these drives. So you got first and goal, you got to keep it first and goal inside the 10. It can't be first and goal from the 15. Makes it so much harder. Second thing, you can't forget about the weapon you have in Ryan Eckley. He's been money all year, one of, if not the best punters in the country. So it's not the worst thing in the world to punt it when you got a weapon like that.
On your penalties point, last week against Purdue, USC had 9 penalties for 103 yards. Just something to think about. Lastly, this one doesn't even need to be said, turnovers. We can't lose the turnover battle by – if you lose it, you can't lose it by more than 1. Ideally, you're positive in that side. But that, again, really relies on the defense. If they're getting takeaways, you might be in business here. So let's revisit our preview real quick before we go. We're going to look at the Big Ten real quick. But let's revisit our preview back from the beginning of the year. After every single preview I posed to you guys, would you be stunned if we won this game? Surprised, 50-50? Where are we at now 3 days out from the game?
I wouldn't be stunned, but I would be surprised if we won this game. I don't think it's 50-50. I don't think it's expected. I think it's kind of right in that lower half, like lower quarter tier of kind of being a little surprised if we won this, but very pleasantly surprised.
I'm right there with you. I mean, I'm not expecting to win it. Obviously, I would love to win it. I'd be pleasantly surprised if this team were able to go out west and get the job done.
I mean, it's really weird seeing it as an 18.5-point underdog because I don't think we're 18.5 points worse than this team is. So I'd definitely be surprised if you're putting percentages on it. I feel like it's a 20% win expectancy. My only fear, and especially with the spread, is if it gets out of hand late, USC can push it out, right? And if we're trying to throw the ball and we make mistakes, but I'd definitely be very surprised. I think we're all in the same boat where we're at, but I don't think it's any of those that's on the road at Penn State, on the road at Ohio State, to where it's just total prayer. I think we're somewhere in the middle there. All right. That was our USC portion of the podcast. Real quickly, we did want to hit the 2 of the other games around the Big Ten this week, because this is a very fascinating week in the Big Ten. The first 2 games off the top, Michigan at Nebraska. Michigan is a 2.5-point favorite. And then Illinois at Indiana. Illinois is a 5.5-point underdog at Indiana. Do you guys have any leans in any of those games?
I would lean Nebraska only because it's at Nebraska. If it's at Michigan, I probably would lean Michigan. That Nebraska environment is unbelievable. So I would lean Nebraska, and then Indiana hasn't proven much. I would think Illinois would be able to at least stick around with them and probably win as well.
You read my mind. I was going to say if it was at Michigan, I'd probably lean Michigan. But since it's at Nebraska, I don't know what Michigan team you're going to get. Are you going to get the one that showed up against Oklahoma, or the one that who they play last week?
Beat by 70. Yeah.
Yeah. Are you going to get that team? I know Central's not great. It's definitely not Oklahoma, but which Michigan team are you getting? So I lean Nebraska there, and I lean Illinois to at least cover the spread, like you said, Brian. I kind of like this Illinois team, and again, like you said, I don't know what Indiana's shown us so far. September Merchants Part 2. You
can't give that one to them. Come on. They made the playoff last year.
I just mean for this year. I'm not worried about it. We're talking about this year.
I'm going Michigan in that game. Maybe I'm hedging my bets on some of my biases here. It kind of stems from, I think I know more about Michigan than I do about Nebraska. Tyler, you talked about it after week 1 when they played Cincinnati. Nebraska played Cincinnati. I wasn't very impressed by them at all. Granted, I know I wasn't impressed by Michigan in that Oklahoma game, but at the same time, it's a much different environment going to Oklahoma, having that experience already, and then going on the road to Nebraska. So I think Michigan's going to win that game. I think it's a very pivotal game for them. Very pivotal game for my Nebraska future to make the playoff, by the way. Just want to throw this one out there. Hedging my bets again. And then I agree with Illinois. They've gone on the road, played Duke, had a hard fought battle, and then just absolutely turned down the gas towards the end of that game. I think Illinois is proven. They're veteran. I like Brett Bielema a lot. I think he's going to match all of Curt Cignetti's energy that Curt Cignetti's probably throwing out there on Saturday. Little flashback to last year with who was Bielema beefing with in the bowl game?
Yeah, he was laughing.
Shane Beamer.
Yeah.
So I like them in that spot. I think those are going to be two fascinating games. Also, quick mention, two in-state rivalries, two former Pac-12 rivalries, the Apple Cup, Washington State, the game that booted us out of the 7:30 time slot for whatever reason. NBC wanted to take, or CBS, I think, wanted to take that game. And then Oregon and Oregon State. I think both of those games are going to be pretty lopsided, but nonetheless, two interesting in-state rivalry games. Not much to say there. Okay. I would agree with not much to say there either, because I think both of those teams stink that are on the other side of the Big Ten. All right, let's get into our locks. As a reminder, Brian is 2-1 this year. I am 1-2. And Higbee is 0-3. I think we switch up the order to give Tyler honors here. He needs something. He needs some juice. Or are you not ready right now?
No, we can make it work. I just don't know how much that's going to help.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. think less about it and throw. What do you got?
All right. Well, here's my thing. I'm going to give this first one with the caveat that Nick Marsh plays. I like the over for the Michigan State USC game at 56.5 if Nick Marsh plays.
Okay.
If he doesn't play, I like the Baylor Arizona State over at 60.5. Sawyer Robertson has been quietly one of the best quarterbacks in the country this year. He has not. He can run the ball, and he hasn't this year. I think they might unleash that, give him a little extra juice, a couple extra points this weekend. We'll see.
I don't know what it is with you and Baylor. You just
I don't either. I swear every week that I don't want to pick them, but it's like they're just in my ear, like pick me.
Yeah, it's like a gravitational pull that Baylor has towards you somehow. I don't know what it is.
And every time they disappoint me. It's like I never learned my lesson.
I'm going to go with Miami versus Florida, the college game day of the week somehow. I don't know why that game was chosen as college game day, but they're 8-point favorites. They're playing at home versus Florida. I think Miami is a legit national championship contender team. Carson Beck has gotten away from whatever negativity he had at Georgia, and he's been balling like he did the first year there. So I think the Hurricanes win by 2 touchdowns.
Miami, I think you said it last week on the podcast. They might be a wagon. It's not a hurricane warning; it's a wagon warning. Category 5 here. I'm going to Illinois 5.5 against IU. I don't know why this number is over 5.5. I feel like it should be 3.5, somewhere in a field goal range. I like Illinois a lot. Don't know a lot about IU. This could bite me in the ass because I feel like betting against Curt Cignetti in I don't want to say overlooked IU team, but overlooked, I would say, just because they haven't played anybody for the first month of the season. I like Illinois. I like Brett Bielema a lot. I think they know what they are, and that helps a lot. And we'll see a lot about IU on Saturday. I don't know if I'm buying the hype, but this game will be very, very telling. I think it's a very telling week in the Big Ten, and it's a very telling week in East Lansing, or rather out in Southern California. Is Michigan State 18.5-point underdogs. Again, I think this game is winnable. How winnable, we'll see. But I think this team should come out with their hair on fire. They're hearing all the negativity. They're hearing all the disrespect, especially from our own fan base. This team should have a lot of motivation to get up for late Saturday night. So hope everyone sticks around to watch it. This will be my final podcast until I return, but luckily don't have a game next week. Go green. Beat USC.